My name is Caitlin Johnson, and I'm Executive Director of BlackRoots Alliance. We're based in Chicago, and our mission is to support the safety and liberation of all Black people and to promote Black leadership and cultivate Black-centered community transformation. Our work is really about fundamentally transforming society. And what we've recognized is that so many of the stories that we tell about ourselves as Black people are rooted in colonization, are rooted in white supremacist narratives. We recognize that there was a deep need to repair all of the harm. And it's not just economic repair, but it's psychological repair, emotional repair, familial repair. The more we can unpack some of those narratives, the more we can uncover some of the barriers that get between us and a vision for the future where we're all thriving. And so our work started in community conversations and talking to people about what they would envision for their communities, what they would envision for what reparations might look like for them, their families, and their neighborhoods, and offering an opportunity for folks to talk amongst each other and see that there are so many things that we have in common that we can build off of, and that we can work to kind of heal from some of the anti-Blackness that we've internalized, and use that as impetus to move us forward and to change society and to lift all boats. We also operate from that sense of value, recognizing a radical inclusivity is necessary in order for us to move further in the path to liberation, and recognizing that there's something that all Black people can bring to the table. There's something that all people of color can bring to the table, and we do not have to define ourselves by colonization or by any narrative that does not empower ourselves and doesn't identify the values that we hold in our hearts and in our families. But we're looking forward to really building this Afrofuturist vision where we're thriving and where people feel ownership of their lives and feel like they have a vehicle to express their Blackness in a way that uplifts them and their families and their communities. And so our work at BlackRoots Alliance continues in the future.
My name is Chelsea Higgs Wise, pronouns she, her, and hers. I'm right here in the so-called Richmond, Virginia, also the fallen capital of the Confederacy. I'm the co-founder and the executive director of Marijuana Justice. We work to organize to repeal the prohibition, repair our communities, and bring reparations to individuals. And our campaign for reparations is titled Coins, Not Cuffs. We've been intricate in the legalization of the first state in the South, right here in Virginia. When we legalized, we really modeled what happened in Illinois by able to pass a legalization bill that included a fund, particularly to reinvest in these communities that were over-policed and disenfranchised and impacted by these prohibition laws. And I will tell you that we have a very heavy presence of cannabis advocates across Virginia, but no one is doing this in this narrative that we are centering justice, centering liberation from the carceral system, but also a holistic of reinvestment economics as well. Coins Not Cuffs models reparations, is pushing a model for reparations because we would really like to take that fund, 30% of the tax revenues of cannabis, and create a guaranteed income program for survivors of the drug war. And so we would like to see direct cash transfers to people from these tax revenues that are unconditioned, no working conditions, as well as no particular milestones. I'm so sorry. I'm a recovering social worker, so still also working on my language after 10 years of providing these direct services and realizing the best way for people to have the agency and to build our own communities is for having money in their pockets. And we know that with money in our pocket, that means we are less likely to be criminalized by the system, which is why we're saying this is coins will equal not cuffs. So we're really fighting really hard for that statewide campaign. And what do you mean, Chelsea? The localities are also collecting tax cannabis revenue? Well, we've got something for them too. For that 3% of localities in Virginia that are collecting that tax revenue, we'd also like to implement a guaranteed income project for what your locality needs. For example, in Richmond, we are #1 for our size in the entire country for evictions, even before COVID. So our legislators are already looking at those 3% to allow guaranteed incomes for people that have been hit by eviction eviction, also that are being denied housing vouchers. And so these are the folks that are going to need these extra supports just to survive. And so we've got a policy plan for that. And really what I want to say in my last minute is truly just to say that this is a model of what we should be demanding with the millions of dollars of cannabis tax revenue that's going to be happening all across the country. And it's really important that we collectively say as a narrative where that should go, and action of repair straight to individuals. Again, I'm Chelsea Higgs-Wise with Marijuana Justice right here in Virginia.
My name is Charlene Eigen-Vasquez. I'm sitting here in Hollister, California right now, which is in the south part of the Bay Area. I am a person of Ohlone descent, and we are a non-federally recognized tribe. So this is kind of a huge reason why, we're happy to be part of this group right here. So in the way of storytelling, I'll give you a little background, and then Jana will speak next. She'll talk about what we're doing now, and Maya's going to talk about the future. To start, I'm one of the founding advisors for what is called Itsu Circle. Prior to colonization, for thousands of years, we'll say, Indigenous people have lived in partnership with Earth, but really the entire ecosystem, right? So we were in good relationship with air, water, plants, animals, the two-legged, the four-legged, the winged ones, and it goes on, and that's how we talk about it. So over the course of history, the traditional Indigenous ways of life were forcibly separated from people. And when I speak of Indigenous people, I talk about people from all over the world, but our project starts in California. So for traditional Indigenous people who rely on strong ecosystems, this whole colonization process has been devastating. So our idea is that we need to heal ourselves first. Once we heal ourselves, and we can share this healing with the broader community. And we've been doing that already over the past few years, talking to people about building relationship with land, about land back, that's one of our priorities, about environmental justice, that's another one of our priorities. But we're stepping back to our own circle so that we can reorganize and really reprioritize, so that when we go back out into the major society, hopefully they're on board with us. And so I'm going to pass it to Jana, who's going to talk a little bit about our strategy.
Good morning. My name is Jana Nason, and I'm part of the Esalen tribe of Monterey County, and I'm an Esalen Rumsen descendant. And I have the absolute pleasure and privilege of getting to work for my tribe now. And most of that is along the lines of rematriation, land back, and right relations. And my tribe specifically used the services of Healing and Reconciliation Institute to help with the difficult conversations on right relations. This year, Itsu Circle is working on bringing together Indigenous women in trying to figure out, what are the real needs? What are the issues? We want to listen to the voices of women to come together to address some of these. And this spring, we're going to be having a gathering, and we're going to use that, like I said, to listen and to address some of the needs. And so, I just want to share that, we all come from a place of, sometimes needing assistance. Small groups need assistance, and Itsu Circle is here to help. And I'm going to pass it to Maya to talk about our future.
Hi, everybody. She, her, calling from Central Coast, California, Esalen Rumsen territory. What we're hoping, and why these funds have been so helpful to us is because there's a message that's not listened to, that the Indigenous women that are a part of our circle are sharing, but is not being heard, especially in the conservation movement in California, mostly white-led organizations based on the history of colonization, who have not gotten this right and have caused additional harm without even knowing it. So we're really thankful for the campaign support, because we're doing this from the inner to the outer, which is that we're listening to the women at this gathering. We're doing strategic invitations for this gathering, and what they share with us is what we want to amplify and support, is sending this message. Right now we have a PR firm that we trust and know that's worked with tribes in the past to help us with that in the spring. And we're really, really excited about sharing what these women tell us is necessary for this time. And we really, from a support, one of the things we've really been struggling with is that folks don't really understand what we're doing, and we can't always share everything that's being talked about. And so the funds that have come from this organization have really helped, because we didn't have to explain ourselves in this circle about what was going to be done next. And we really appreciate that. Nice to be with you all.
Hi, my name is Elyria Foster. I'm the Policy and Advocacy Coordinator for the African American Community Service Agency, and we're located in San Jose, California. And we're a nonprofit organization where we, like, every day we're helping families in need, whether it's providing food, baby care, like whether it's like diapers or formula. And we see people every day who are really struggling out there to survive, and we're happy to be a home for them as this agency. And what we want to do is really help start trying to understand where reparations can come in when we think of wealth building, when we think of people who can have access to education, access to housing. One of our big saying is strength and unity. So what we want to do is really galvanize like everyone around us in our community, whether there's other community-based organizations that support the cause, whether it's individuals that support it, to really understand what we can do with this, and then start to go to our elected officials, really have them put together not just a study, but start putting together like meaningful conversations to understand how this can really affect our community, and what we need to really understand that this happens to our people so many years ago. What can we do now? What can we do to help our communities now and moving forward, so that we don't have to always see the people that we see every day who are struggling just to survive. Within our organization, what we've done so far, we're in the process of hiring a research fellow who will be researching, pretty much reparations work, not just in our state, but throughout the country. So we can then really start thinking like impactfully, what can we then bring to our elected officials, and also galvanize the community to then start saying, hey, let's put together this commission that can study, what reparations can mean here. Let's, if this area has done it, what have they done right? So that's our plan moving forward, and really start to get the word out. We've already started doing that. I've sat on panels already, speaking with other communities who want to be in support of us. So we're going to continue to do that, continue to, get the word out that, hey, this is what we're doing. This is an important time for all of us to really be involved in this work. And we're going to continue to keep pushing. And I'm happy to be, on here with all of you, hearing your stories, hearing what your organizations do, because I feel like, if we come together on this, we can really do some inspiring work. So thank you all.
Okay, I'm Deidria Farmer-Pellman, the Executive Director and founder of the Restitution Study Group. We officially began in the year 2000, exposing corporations that played a role in slavery. We started with a media campaign, and by 2002, we filed lawsuits all around the country against about 20 different companies. We ended up with, surprisingly, a precedent that we could use to fight harder. So a lot of people don't know, we actually won the case. We didn't win money, but we won the right to continue litigation on a couple of different levels. And so what we're doing now is we're getting ready to test the precedent. So what we've been working on lately, within the context of the grant, is developing a case, which we have got now. And right now we're just bringing on board the lawyers to get ready to file a lawsuit against one company that played a major role in the enslavement of us illegally. We're going to try to use that case to leverage the company to sit down and create a national trust fund. So this is something I think at some point all of us will be involved in, but we're going to try to work with states who have slavery ever disclosure laws. So they're required to report in various different states about their roles in slavery. And then we go through those reports to see if they're telling the truth. So we found many companies that are lying, and we're going to go after them one by one and get them to contribute to this trust fund. So that's one of the things we're doing. The other thing we're doing, today we released an open letter to the president asking him to use a law that he himself championed through the Senate. It's called the Proxmire Act. It's the Genocide Convention Implementation Act. And what it does is it actually gives the Department of Justice the right to go after people who engage in genocide. You all can visit our website and you'll see the letter posted. We've actually explained and compared our situation to those of other people whom the president has supported in their genocide claims, for example, the Armenians. And so we are asking the president and the Department of Justice to use that law in cases where Black people are killed by police or militia, or in other instances, like for the fact that we don't have our national identities or our African ethnicities. That's genocide according to the Genocide Convention in this law. And so we're asking that we can have a private right of action to bring litigation on those bases, as well as the Department of Justice using it in those cases that they have coming up against folks who have killed us, members of our group, or who are trying to kill us. So that's one. And the last thing is we do DNA testing, because we want to cure the genocide ourselves. So one of the things that we do in the context of this grant is we have someone in Africa who's testing African nationals, and we are creating a database where we here can look at actually you can write into us and we will do a search for you for free to see if you're related to any of these folks so that you can learn the African ethnic group, nationality, and really meet your real family. So there's a lot of those reunions that are going on, and that's what we've been up to. There you go.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cecilia Behgam. I use they and she pronouns. I'm calling in from Tawakani land, also known as Dallas, Texas, and I'm here with my amazing teammate, Erica. And I'll get us started and then I can pass it over. ACRE stands for Action Center on Race and the Economy. We are a national nonprofit and we work at the intersection of racial justice and Wall Street accountability. We work on a number of issues at ACRE, from policing and incarceration to housing to anti-Muslim corporations. And so far what we've done is we've really deepened our own knowledge as an organization through research on the history of reparations, particularly focusing on environmental issues. We've created a database that summarizes, 45 calls for reparations from 1783 to today. Yeah, we're really seeing an opportunity to, work with folks on the front lines that are directly impacted by corporate polluters and all of their financiers to call for reparations for, those extractive wealth grabbing activities from corporate polluters. And so in the new year, we're hoping to assemble a committee of folks that are already engaged in those types of campaigns and really just help build out tools, media, guide, any guidance possibly on how to follow the money behind local corporate polluters and really demand responsibility from Wall Street in fueling climate chaos. So I'll pass it to Erica.
Thanks so much, Ceci, for giving that overview. And my name's Erica, and I'm calling in from unceded Tongva lands here in so-called Los Angeles. And as Ceci was mentioning, I'm the campaign director for our climate and environmental justice team. And yeah, we're just really honored and grateful to be, working to build on the rich history of reparations campaigns and demands that have been rooted in Black leadership and land back campaigns rooted in Indigenous leadership. And we feel reparations is such an essential piece of how society and corporations start the process of trying to make right for just generations of harm. And so, building on what Seth was sharing as far as our work that we've done already, in 2022, we're looking forward to assembling a reparations committee of activists who are already engaged in campaigns and calls for reparations in their communities that could really help us inform the design of a project that could support communities that want to incorporate reparations demands on Wall Street for their responsibility in fueling climate destruction and environmental racism. And so some ideas that are percolating, but would really want to get feedback from folks on the ground who are already leading these campaigns include potentially develop a toolkit with narrative guidance, sample demands language, and guidance for local groups on how you can really follow the money behind your local corporate polluters. So it's really great to connect with you all, and look forward to, potentially working together on this bigger leg of the project.
I am Kavan Ward, of course, you guys can see that. I am the founder of Justice for Bruce's Beach and the co-founder of Where's My Land. You all helped us significantly with our work with Bruce's Beach. Greatly appreciative of that. We in turn donated some money. Justice for Bruce's Beach donated money to Where's My Land so that we can continue the efforts nationally. So our goal is to reclaim land stolen from Black people, and if we're not able to reclaim it, get restitution for the families and people who have lost land in the past or who have had land stolen. And right now we're ramping up, we're raising funds so that we can do this work nationally. Justice for Bruce's Beach was a local grassroots movement, and we're expanding nationally. And I have my partner, Ashanti Martin, on the line, and she can talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, I mean, I echo everything that Kavan said. We are doing a lot of planning for 2022. We're going to be very, getting a lot of sort of infrastructure things taken care of and looked up so we can just be ready to go and push hard as far as building partnerships, trying to get funding. We just had a story in the Washington Post yesterday, or Monday, and that was really exciting. And so that's it for me though.
Hey everybody, I'm Patrice. I run an organization called DC Justice Lab. With me is my colleague, Lindsay Ayers. We are looking at a bill here that's already pending that would establish a fund and a task force. And there are a few questions that are top of mind for me, especially being here with folks who have been in this work longer than DC has. One is like whether we should be looking at reparations generally or as they relate to specific criminal justice harms, like we've seen in other places. The next is if we are looking at specific harms, like how do we give reparations for a harm that's still happening? Like I see a lot of energy around reparations for the drug war, but we still have a drug war. The other question is like whether we should strategically fight for Black reparations and Indigenous reparations at the same time or separately. And the last is like what role there is for looking at private reparations as part of our campaign. Because we have a lot of like universities and stuff looking at reparations here too. Lindsay.
Hi everyone, I'm Lindsay. I am policy counsel at DC Justice Lab. I will be leading our reparations team and trying to make some big things happen here in DC. Patrice just gave you all the high level updates, but I'm excited to learn from you all and learn and see what we can make happen here in the district. So thanks for sharing, everyone.
So I'm John Comer. I'm on the call with my friend Linda Keeley of Raw. I'm with the Architects of Justice. I am the organizer that's heading up the coalition that we are building here in Baltimore to first document stories of people throughout the city of Baltimore, but we're doing it a bit strategically in getting stories from all of the city council districts. We'll begin to use that as an organizing tool to begin to organize those folks from those districts into hopefully a committee that City Hall or City Council will adopt as is. We're also just trying to put together an education piece, because we'll be organizing around it, for folks to be able to understand who's been doing this reparations work for a while now, some of the different frameworks, some of the different beliefs, discussing, having those hard conversations to figure out exactly what people think reparations are, and how to go about it. I've been organizing for a very long time, and this is probably some of the most intricate, the most spiritual, the most detailed type of work that I've ever been called to do. So, we're working on right now getting that videographer to have short form stories, and then long form stories, and then we'll put that out there. And as I said, we'll just go back and start really organizing and building from there. And even if City Hall may not adopt the commission as is, we're still looking to build a force within the city where that group of people will remain and continue to be a block of people that are fighting for reparations here in Baltimore City. Linda?
Yeah, I just want to add, in addition to resourcing the organizing efforts that John is doing, my job is to educate and organize white people, particularly about the continuum of harm, how we need to stop it, how we need to repair what we've done, the harm we've done, and how we need to prevent future harm.
So Buju, Dinoi Maganaduk, hello relatives, Nikki Paratus Indigenous. I'm Nikki, Makwan Dudam, Onamani Zagi Gung and Dunjaba. Just a standard Ojibwe greeting. I'm a Anishinaabe, and I am Bear Clan, and I am coming to you from Dakota and Anishinaabe homelands, many other homelands here in the Minneapolis metro area, in the offices of the Tiwahe Foundation, which is one of the few Native philanthropic organizations in the country. Much of our programming serves the urban Native community here in Minneapolis, but also we have programming that serves the greater Minnesota. We have 11 tribes here in Minnesota. And Tiwahe in Dakota means family, and it represents, right, the smallest unit of our community. And so we're saying, right, there's no asset that's more precious than, and so everything that we do is to build capacity and to provide resources for our individuals and families, to uplift their talent, their resilience, their strength. So really just trying to resource our current and future leaders. And we do that in a number of areas: culture and language, education, health and wellness, economic independence. And our grant making efforts are just to try to remove those feelings that we often have as a result of blame or shame or hopelessness, right? And really focus on positive culturally based giving, lots of reciprocity in our communities. We call it circles of giving, but and also receiving and honoring our people in doing so. And we do have other work that we are starting in the Twin Cities with a group called Linking Leaders. And this is a group focused on like cross-cultural partnership and solidarity across the Native, Black and Asian and Latinx communities leaders, but we're really focusing on how do we strengthen our connections across our networks, increase our shared leadership, our solidarity practices, so that we can really advance, big, powerful systems change, doing it at a local level, uplifting each other, showing up for each other when we need to. All of that is how we think about reparations, like reparations in an Indigenous context. We could talk about land back. I written about it, spoke about it. That's something that's dear to my heart, but that can come in many different ways. And part of it is restoring justice and shifting philanthropy so that we're directly resourced. And that's really where I think Tiwahe taps in. It's, directly resourcing us, research, evidence, all of that shows what happens when Indigenous people are resourced well, because it's with us, like we win, everyone wins, because we're thinking in those regenerative ways around food, water, healthcare, education, and more. And it's not a zero-sum game. It really is thinking about, seventh generation philosophy, and that benefits all people planet. So that's where we're at, and just very appreciative of the work y'all are doing and being able to, share this circle and space. So, Chimagwich.
Sherry Suttles, middle initial A for Ann. I'm the founding president of the Gullah Geechee Group Incorporated. I always hasten to state I'm not Gullah Geechee by birth. The Gullah Geechee people are the North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida corridor. And it was formed to preserve a culture that was dying. And part of that culture is land. So when we made our application, we didn't use the word reparations per se, I must say, but it's called Gullah Geechee Land Reclaim and Retain. The reclaim is part of reparations, giving us land back. We started in Georgia with dispersal of funds. About half of our money has already gone out in cash and checks to people. And now we're scheduling our own programming. But these organizations have been, as I call it, boots on the ground before us. And we want to just help them continue that. So now we're going to divert to our own programming. You'll see in the background, but it says the Mende, which is Sierra Leone ethnic group, largest. I just was there in September with the Mende people. This is a Mende outfit I'm wearing. I'm proud to say my son came up with that name for a cultural arts festival that we began. We had state grant money for that. And that's what we're doing now. We're saying it's not just anybody's land we want to preserve, it's Gullah Geechee land. And a lot of people don't even know about Gullah. Some of them can't even pronounce the word. So we're doing education with that too. And we're doing it through the artisans. We have a basket weaver, the back part of the top there. We have an ironsmith. We have the Geechee Gullah ring shouters. This way, we're not just saying we want our land back. We want the Gullah Geechee land back because those were enslaved people on those barrier islands on the East Coast. They went and bought land after they got out of slavery, and the people are taking it from them, developers and the government. So final approach to this, I will say, is rap artists. Many efforts. I went on a seminar last week. It was over 100 people dealing with heirs property, that one part of what we're doing. And a couple said youth, but we're going to go to the youth through rap artists. I've developed a request for proposal format. I've talked to a couple of people I know who rap, and we've told them what heirs property is. Some of them never heard of it, and they're going to come back to us with a song or two or more. We also have a guest from Sierra Leone we're working to bring here. There's a long history of her relationship to Georgia, and she's a generally sweet person. I met with her. She's the leader of a village there outside of Freetown. So we have a lot on our plate. We've just put up the money first because those are people already doing stuff. And when we start having a little mini Mende festival or workshops, which we did years ago on heirs property, then I will have more to report about what we as an organization have done, our boots on the ground, so to speak. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you so much for the funding.
My name is Alfonso Espino. I'm coming at you from way out west in relation to all of y'all. GES are no acronym. It stands for the Globeville Elyria-Swansea Coalition. We're based out of 3 neighborhoods in Northeast Denver, Colorado. So like I said, way out west. And the focus of our reparations project is there's a lot of context to it, but a lot of our work came out of and was born out of the displacement of our people, our communities. Right next to us, 5 Points was a historic African-American Black community here in Denver, which was gentrified and basically blown to smithereens by the developers and their profit pursuits. And then more recently, in our community specifically, we've been victims to eminent domain a couple of times. In my lifetime, it's been twice. First to make way for the expansion of Interstate 70, 65 families lost their homes. And then where our campaign is specifically focused on is the National Western Center, which is an entity that has supported and uplifted the economic activity of a lot of the ranch settlers in the West, in their theft of the land and their profiting of the land. So that's where our main focus is, and it's because the National Western Center, the city of Denver, Colorado State University came together there to basically come together in a partnership, and they used eminent domain again right there in 2015 to displace even more families and businesses. And they acquired a bunch of public land in that process. There's like a bunch of harms that have been done into our people over, a century's worth, culminating most recently in the acts of the city, National Western, and their displacement efforts through, state mandated eminent domain. So really what happened was the coalition, GS Coalition, figured out and did research, and they identified a tool, which, funnily enough, has already been mentioned in the form of a land trust. So we began a land trust here in our communities. We've got our first 5 homes in it this year. We got families living in them now. These are homes that they own, the homes. These are all Black and brown families that are finally getting their first hands at home ownership. And we just broke ground on another one, another 5 units just 2 days ago. So we see these institutions as a continuation of colonization. We see gentrification as a continuation in an economic model based on that. So our argument, our goal in our campaign is there's about 47 acres of that public land that is unaccounted for, unplanned for, no plans to develop. And we're asking, demanding the city to put that remaining public land into our community land trust. That's our tool, from which we will then use, to develop that area. We will create the vision, we'll identify the needs, the historic needs that we've always been missing in terms of infrastructure, in terms of access to health. We don't got any clinics, we don't got any hospitals, we don't got no pharmacies, we don't got grocery stores. So we identify that and then we build it. And most importantly, that land will be under our control, our community's control. We're starting a reparations cohort here in Denver, where we're building a cohort so that we can use like the platform of this campaign to then do the exact same things in other communities across the region. The state of Colorado is the ancestral lands of the Cheyenne, Ute, and Arapaho people here. So it's really about bringing together the land into community control, but we're also, expanding who will actually get to, manifest that vision and make it into a space that we could come together and address a lot of these harms done to our peoples. We're looking to make it into like a true cohort. So, because we understand, our communities are small, but with that land, we can envision something for all of us to address our harms and also our needs into the future and steward that land for future generations, for people that look like us, people that the city, that these institutions will consistently and will continue to exploit unless we stand up and organize. And, that's really what it's all about. Sorry for talking too much. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be here and learning about everybody's work. I really feel just very honored to be here and share this space.